do with anything. Now, as far as should athletes make demonstrations about civic things such as the Cavaliers, what I'm talking about is the Cavs wearing the I Can't Breathe shirts on the court last night, which between you and me, I think is a function of LeBron James getting a bunch of questions from the media for 3 days and then bending to doing something that gives him an appearance. But I know there's going to be people saying, oh, you shouldn't say that. LeBron's just a great civic guy. He just wants to get into social issues. No, he doesn't. Or else he would dive into every social issue. I'm just saying that LeBron didn't have anything to say until he spent a couple of days inundated with questions about, well, this guy did it and this guy did it and that guy did it and what are you going to do, LeBron? And next thing you know, Kyrie's like, well, I'm going to wear this shirt too. Now, maybe they were making a statement. Now, I like that aspect of it. I do like athletes that find a voice in social matters. I do think that that's important in our society because they have an audience. That being said, I don't like the example of certain things, and I will say this is one of them. I will say St. Louis is one of them. And again, I'm not trying to get into arguments about who's guilty or who's innocent or who did this or that. My point is, I do have a bit of an issue when it comes to, I'll say, let's use St. Louis for an example. The Rams players coming out with the hands up, don't shoot. I have an issue with that. You know why? Because as far as the legal system goes, that situation was no longer one to be publicly questioned by that. Because now what you're doing, to me, is you've got NFL players in front of the camera questioning the legal system. And I get that you should be allowed to question. No, this is where these arguments, nobody can have an intelligent argument and conversation here because you're instantly slated on one side or the other, one camp or the other. We can't have discourse about anything. You know, it's as bad as the quarterbacks. You're either a Johnny guy or a Hoyer guy or this or that. You can have opinions. And believe it or not, if my opinion's not the same as yours, that doesn't make me a racist. If your opinion's not the same as mine, that doesn't make you better than me or different. That stuff drives me nuts. Everybody gets all judgmental, so everybody runs from these kind of conversations like roaches because you can't have them without people getting mad and people getting offended and name calling and all of that stuff. I absolutely agree with what Vashawn said. Everyone has a right to their opinion, but I do believe that the leagues, I think that there's lines, and I'm just saying that I think that at certain places those lines should be drawn. I did not have an issue with LeBron James and Kyrie Irving wearing t-shirts during their shoot-around. I do have an issue with exactly what Vashawn said. LeBron is an attention whore, and I do believe that he found something and latched onto it after a couple of days hanging out in New York, and the media really kind of pushed the issue. I'm just saying, that's my belief on what happened with LeBron in this situation. Taking that out of that, I don't care. You're wearing t-shirts during a shoot-around. I did have a problem with what the St. Louis Rams did. That's a completely different issue than a couple of guys wearing a t-shirt. A t-shirt is a nice, quiet statement. You know what I'm saying? It's a nice, quiet statement. I'm making my statement. I'm not bringing a huge amount of attention to myself. I did think that the whole demonstration with the Rams, I thought that what you did blatantly was just stir up what could have been a worse situation there. But I think you got such a high profile, then at that point, it's like beating a hornet's nest. But anyways, that's a fine line to walk, because who am I, who are you, who is anybody to say you don't have a voice? If the St. Louis Rams believed that what they were doing the right way, okay, then that's what you believe. Now, I think maybe the leagues need to be a little more like, hey, because at the same time, I know a lot of people that talk to me. I know a lot of people that are in law enforcement that had a huge issue with that statement that was being made by the St. Louis Rams, because they felt that, you've got a blatant impugning of something that's already been decided. Say what you want about the decision, but it's legally already been decided. And again, I just think that that's, somebody right now is going to stop listening to the show. Somebody right now is going, damn that racist. I can't believe he said that because, whatever. But I'm just keeping it real, man. And if you can't deal with that, then how are we going to talk sports? We obviously can't keep it real. So just go keep it fake with somebody else. I'm just saying, I'm not even talking about the specific instances. But I do like guys having a voice. You know what I mean? I do like, because so many guys are afraid to do that, like Charles Barkley. I'm not a role model. I disagree. You are. And that's why I think you got to be careful with that voice too. Because let's just use the Rams thing, for instance. That was such an ugly situation with the riots and the actual people being hurt on the streets, that you can throw that out there in that situation and re-inflame those. Because guess what? There are kids that look at you as role models. So guess what? Maybe they go, oh man, if the Rams think that there was somebody innocent, if the Rams think that the police were wrong, then maybe, because I look up to them, maybe I do too. And maybe you have just poured more gas onto an already bad situation. That's all. And that was my thoughts on that right there. And I absolutely, Vashawn has a great point about his comments earlier, and what I said I agree with about LeBron being a bit of an attention whore, man. He is. He's very savvy when it comes to his brand, you guys. I'm just being honest. There were a couple of instances here in Cleveland that he definitely could have been front and center on that were as big as these national stories, and he didn't. But yet his buddies in the NBA, he spent a couple of days in New York, he felt pressure because everybody kept asking him questions. Well, he's doing it. Well, did you see the other teams got shirts? Did you? Oh, yeah. Well, I asked somebody to get me one of those. I think it's a good idea. And then the next day, well, yeah, I'm still waiting to get one of those shirts. I think it's a great idea. And the next day they had it because he was kind of, I felt he was kind of shoehorned into that. And anyways, but it is what it is. But people were like, oh, man, with these athletes making social statements, I do like the aspect of guys doing it because a lot of them don't. That doesn't necessarily mean I agree with each individual statement that they go out there and make. But I do like the guy. I mean, because, hey, gang, guys have a voice, man. And I do like that because I do think when it's done right, especially for the right reasons and for the right things, it brings a lot of attention, and it definitely can be good. I mean, think about that, man. That's one of the things that you have the platform, use it. But I also think you have to be careful in how you wield that platform. But like I said, we're talking about things nobody wants to talk about because the instant we start having these conversations, you got a different opinion than me, and it's inflammatory. It can't be. Discussion doesn't exist in today's world. Today's world, it's your take, my take, label it, call it a day. And that drives me crazy. It doesn't matter if it's sports, if it's society, if it's whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it is, guys, with that. Now I want to talk about the actual basketball part of it as we get going here. I want to talk about the actual basketball part of it. Cavaliers last night in the second half against the Nets. That game, the Cavs were down early. Cavs were back and forth, nipping it back and forth there in the first half. Second half, third quarter, really, Cavs rolled 17 points. 17 on the plus side for the Cavaliers in the third quarter. Talk about Deion. At the beginning of the show, I mentioned all the talk about LeBron and the royal family. Deion Waiters was king for a night last night. 26 points off the bench. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. How about this? Cavaliers, not only is that the high for anybody coming off the bench, Cavs have had a dozen games this season that the whole bench didn't combine for 26 points. Deion Waiters dropped 26 off the bench last night. Really good to see him stroking it, to see that confidence from Deion coming off the bench. That's going to be key, especially as they work Delly back in, and those two can be the two-guard combo leading the second team most of the way there, getting some of that chemistry going. But I thought that was very good to see. Obviously, LeBron James is always going to be the center point, but it shouldn't be. And that's what we talk about. To me, when everybody can focus on him all they want there, but it's the other guys stepping up. It's the various guys, as we've mentioned. Tristan Thompson, by the way, coming up big again. Another night for him. It's Kevin Love. It's Kyrie Irving. It's these other guys around him. And as he continues to distribute, and I'm going back to that, by the way, distributing the ball. LeBron, I'm telling you, with this team, he can average 12 to 15 assists a game for the season if he wanted to. No doubt in my mind. I think he's at 8 or 9 a game right now here in the early part of the season. But I think that's going to be That's going to go a long way to making this offense work at its true effectiveness. The move that they made, we talked about a lot of this, the move that they made with switching, having LeBron kind of distribute, Kyrie attacking, but defensively still playing the point, but offensively playing more than the two. We've talked about that's kind of his ideal role there. But last night, again, getting back to what we were talking about, the assist, Tristan Thompson, the reason those two were in my thoughts was the oops. I mean, I'll tell you what, saw a couple cats on Twitter, and I had to favorite them, man, and say, hey, man, it reminded me of watching him toss those up to J.J. Hickson. That's exactly right. Beautiful point in the chat room, getting away from the game. If LeBron really wanted to make that statement, that shirt would have been on when he was taking that picture with the royal family. That's all I'm saying, guys, is he's very smart about how he brands himself. He wore the shirt during warm-ups so that everybody like me and you can be talking about it. But when he took the picture that's going to be seen around the world by millions and millions of people, do you know? It just reminds me of a story. And see, people are going to say, here you go, comparing Michael Jordan. It just popped in my head, though, about the power of an athlete wearing a shirt. I remember hearing a story about it was a small brand. The guy gave a shirt to Michael Jordan one time, and Michael Jordan wore it, and literally overnight, the guy did like $1 million worth of T-shirt business or whatever. It was some little mom and pop company, and LeBron just happened to wear Jordan just happened to wear his shirt in a big media appearance, and it like blew his whole brand up and changed his life. And it was a story that I had read about the power of a guy like that at that level and what kind of exposure just wearing your T-shirt can give you. So absolutely, there was an opportunity there. If you wanted the whole world to be talking about this, you would have wore that picture, and then it would have been the focus of attention on every news story around the world today. So he knew what he was doing. I'm just saying, guys, just keep in mind, very savvy businessman. Nothing wrong with that. Do what you got to do, man. I'm just saying. Because I always have to qualify it. Otherwise, people go, well, you just don't like LeBron. No, that's not true. I don't like disingenuous athletes. But if you want to attach that to LeBron, then you do what you got to do. But getting back to on the basketball court, he tossed a couple of bad little alley-oops last night. And the one no-look there to Tristan was just whoo-wee. And, again, watching him distribute the ball, I like it. I think that helps really smooth the offense for these Cavaliers, and they now rolling 7 in a row here. During this run, they are one of the most efficient offenses in the NBA. During this 7-0 streak, they have the third best offensive efficiency in the entire NBA, and they're averaging 24 assists a game. When we kicked off this season, I said, when this Cavs team gets to where they need to be, they'll lead the league in rebounding, and they'll lead the league in assists. And that's what we're seeing here a little bit begin to take shape. Now, rebounding is still a very big disappointment to me. The rebounding has to come up. They're still in the bottom third of the league, maybe even a little bit lower than that. Continuing to bring it up a bit, but that's going to be – the averages take a while to come up. But those two categories are going to be where this team makes its hay and just dominates teams, and then getting out there and putting it down defensively. So the assists continue to go up for them. And as well, they're making shots, too. During this streak, they're hitting over 50% of their shots, nearly 10% better than they had done in the 12 games prior to that. So Cavaliers now sit at 12-7. They come back home for the back half of a 2-2 here, as they've got Toronto. This is a big one here, because last time Toronto was here was the last time the Cavs lost. They were fragile, the whole thing. Everybody talked about it. Then the Cavs started winning some games. One of those on this road trip was against Toronto, and the Cavs made a statement against the Raptors over the weekend. But this one here now, and these two teams won't play again after this. After looking at each other 3 times early on, they won't play again until much later in the season. But another chance here to come back and see how you do against this team, how you do against a team when you got that familiarity of playing each other a couple of times in a row here. Good test for the Cavs. And they're on the back end of the back-to-back, too. So that's also a test of this team. And the bench, Delly continue to work himself in a little bit here. See if Dion can follow up the game that he had last night. I know a lot of you out there that are not Dion guys are going, yeah, raise that trade value, Dion. Yeah, I don't look at it. Man, to me, Dion playing better has nothing to do with